All right, let's finish up by seeing how to read portions of files by using the slice mechanism. And in this example, I've got my file slices underscore start file open, and I've got my snippets scroll down to the reading file slices portion. So let's take a look at what we're going to do here. Let me scroll all the way down to the bottom. In previous examples, we've had the user select a file and then respond to the change handler by reading in the contents. So this is going to be slightly different. What I'm going to do here is have the user select a file using the file input element, but I've got two other buttons here in the UI. The first button has a click handler that says read entire file, and then I've got another button that says read file slice. So we're going to exercise both reading the entire file and then reading just a portion of the file so you can see the difference side by side. The file contents will be displayed in this text area right here, which has this ID. So we'll be getting a reference to this and putting the result into the text area each time. So let's jump over to the snippets and copy the relevant code over. So first, I'll copy over the function that reads the entire file. And that's this one here. And we will just paste that in right here. For reading the entire file, you should be familiar with this by now. The first thing I'm going to do is clear out the contents of that text area and see if the user has chosen a file. So I've taken the file variable and moved it up here as a global variable and set it to null to begin with. And then when the user uses the file input element to choose a file, I set it to be whatever the file is that the user has chosen and display some information about the file, which we've seen in previous examples, the name, the size, and so on. So if the file is not equal to null, which means that the user has chosen a file, I create a new file reader, set the onload event handler to this function, which just reads in the contents and sets the text area to be whatever the result is, and then start the reader on its way by calling read as text. So we've already seen this. So the real new stuff is here in read file slice. So let's copy this over, and we'll see how this works. All right. So in read file slice, I have two local variables, start and end, and this is going to be the portion of the file that gets read in. I clear out the contents of the text area so that we can see the new data that's being read. And then we have the code that actually reads the slice of the file. So once again, I make sure that a file has actually been selected by checking to see if the file is not equal to null. And then I make a new file reader. And then I have the reader's onload handler right here, which does the same thing as the previous one does. It just gets the result text out of the event's target property and sets it into the text area. Now the difference here is that I need to call the slice function. And because the HTML5 file API is still a current working draft and it's a work in progress, this has not been fully standardized yet. So what I need to do is check to see if my browser has the WebKit or the Moz prefix in front of it, because right now those are the only two browsers that support this particular function. So I check to see if the file object has a function called WebKit slice, and if it does, I make a variable called new file, which calls the file's WebKit slice function, and I give it the start and the end. This will return a new blob of information that I can read, but it's only going to consist of those bytes between start and end. And similarly, if my browser has the Moz slice version, then I just simply call the Moz slice version of the function with the same arguments, and I get the same result back. Now, once I've done that, I call the reader read as text function with the new file. This is the new blob I've just created. So this is the slice that I'm going to be reading in. And then everything from there just works the same as it did before. This will kick off the reader, the onload function will get handled, and then the contents will be placed into the text area. So let's save that. And I've gone ahead and copied this over to my local web server, and you can do the same. So here I am in the browser, and I'll refresh. Okay, so now I'm going to choose a file. And since this is working with text, I'm going to choose a text file. So this is my sample text file right here. And you can see that when I choose the file, we've got the file information, which gets populated right there. We can see that it's 162 bytes. So let's first click on read entire file. And you can see that the results are pretty much what we expected. The entire text file gets read in and put into the text area. Now, when I click on read portion of file, remember, we're starting at the 5th byte and going to the 15th byte. So only that part of the file is going to be read in. And you can see that it's the is an exam portion, which is this right here. It goes from the 5th to the 15th offset, and that's the portion of the text that's being read in and placed into the text area. So you can see that by using the slice function, you can read only portions of an individual file.